All right, happy Labor Day weekend and race day. Let's talk about the Xfinity picks. Rich and I just got done with watching practice and qualifying. We both hopped on together and tried to get this sheet done as quickly as possible. And hopefully, this video will be relatively quick. That way, you guys have plenty of time to get your lineups in and then enjoy the rest of your day. Once practice and qualifying is done for the Cup Series, I'm sure Rich and I and maybe Kev will hop on and finish that spreadsheet, and we'll then get our picks video uploaded on YouTube for that. But let's focus on the Xfinity Series here. So with the expensive part of the slate, you got Larson, Bell, Gibbs, Chastain, and Allgaier. So elephant in the room is Christopher Bell there. Now he starts 36th. He had engine issues. That team is replacing the engine. Therefore, they were not able to take a qualifying time. So he basically starts DFL. So you're basically just plugging in Christopher Bell, especially in cash games for tournaments. It's going to be hard to ignore that place differential upside that he has because he can still potentially be a lap leader. He's going to be extremely high owned. So if you are playing Christopher Bell, it does unfortunately take away one of the, bullets in the chamber, however you want to phrase it, of a potential lap leader in your line, but still feel confident that Christopher Bell could lead laps later on in this race. It's just going to take him maybe until stage 2 or even stage 3 until he gets up there. The other elephant is you have Larson, who is arguably, the best driver, definitely in this series, but he starts 7th. His practice times weren't great. His qualifying time wasn't great. He's probably going to be very high owned. It's kind of concerning, I guess, a little bit with his practice and qualifying times, but it shouldn't take him long to figure it out for them to get that car dialed in. He'll be able to get more out of that car than anyone else in the field, and he should be contending for the win at some point. So really like Bell, really like Larson, but who really could be that early lap leader? So with Bell and Larson, it's going to be hard for us really to get to Gibbs. He's more of just a GPP play. I think there's some other plays on the slate that give you a higher probability, a higher chance of being an early lap leader. Especially if you do want to play Larson and Bell, it's going to be kind of hard to get to Gibbs or even Chastain. Chastain just doesn't have the same equipment level that everyone else up here does. So I don't feel confident as him being a lap leader. Allgaier is someone who I really like, but more for GPPs, more for tournaments. Don't know how much ownership he's going to get. Again, if you are playing Allgaier, I think you still need to pair him with an early lap leader, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But Allgaier historically runs very well here. He takes care of his tires. He's going to have a great long run car. So if we get long green flag runs, I really expect Allgaier to be moving forward and contending, to be that lap leader, even contending for the win today. But he does have some stiff competition, with Larson and Bell and just the other Xfinity Series regulars. But when it comes to who that early lap leader is, I really like either plugging in a Noah Gragson or Brandon Jones into your line. Now, the advantage that Brandon Jones has is he's $8,500 compared to Noah Gragson, who is $10,000. And it looks like I need to fix the formatting there. So I'll fix that before we upload it on Twitter, which is at Fast Cars FM. Quick shout out there. But Brandon Jones and Noah Gragson, their qualifying times were so similar to one another. So I think you could make an argument for either of them being the early lap leader. I like plugging one of them into your lines and then pairing them with, a Larson and Bell or a Bell and Allgaier, just other drivers that you feel confident can get out front lead laps after Brandon Jones and or Gragson give up the lead at some point in this race. Or maybe you think Gragson and Jones both, run away with this thing and they're going to be, the single dominator and you want to pair them with other place differential plays. But really like Brandon Jones today. I liked him a lot coming into this week. He historically runs really well here. Did not expect him to earn the pole, but nonetheless, he did. So he's going to have that track position. He's going to be able to control the restart. He has the best percentage, the best chance in my mind to be that early lap leader. But, he's had some really stiff competition with Noah Gragson right behind him on his heels. So if you can't get to Gragson as your lap leader, I think more people will probably feel more confident with Gragson. I don't mind, saving some salary and maybe building a very similar lineup, one with a Jones early lap leader type of, lineup construction, another one with a Gregson early lap leader construction. Barry's going to be a little hard to get to, in my opinion, just depending on how you're building out your lines. I think he's going to be more of a GPP tournament play. His practice and qualifying times weren't great, but we know he's in a JRM car, and he should be, contending for probably a top 8, top 5 by the end of the day. One driver I do like a lot is AJ Allmendinger. He's the Xfinity Point Series leader. He slipped up a little bit in qualifying, so he starts a little bit further back than he probably normally would. Probably isn't going to lead you any laps. He might not pick any fast laps up. He has the ability to do that, but we know he's going to get the most out of that car. He's going to get a good result should he be able to avoid trouble. So I have no problem plugging in AJ Allmendinger as long as you can get some other lap leaders into your line. Pivots off of AJ would be John Hunter Nemechek, maybe a Sam Mayer. But for me, it's really just AJ out of that kind of, those 3 drivers there. RCR cars were fast. Both of them showed up with, great qualifying efforts. Austin Hill is $8,700. And then you got Sheldon Creed all the way down in, the 7K range at $7,800. Now, between the two of them, I think I really like Creed, maybe as an upset lap leader. Say Jones or Gregson has an issue, say, one of them slips up and gets into one another. They have a restart violation. Whatever the potential reason is, who is in there to potentially take advantage of an issue? Well, that's going to be Sheldon Creed. And Creed also had the fastest 5-lap and 10-lap average, and then his 20 and 15-lap averages were second. So we know this car is fast. This team's been running much better as of late. Very, very cheap. More of a tournament type of play. Not very likely for him to lead, but potentially getting a lap leader in your line at $7,800 is very interesting, because then it really allows you to, pair him with Bell, Larson, Allgaier, some other Gregson, some other plays up towards the front of the salary band. Who else do we not talk about here? So Hemrick and Castle just not going to get to, not enough upside. Herbst is interesting. Herbst really likes his car. He did get into the wall a little bit in practice, but you're going to see drivers doing that all day long. It's not going to damage his car by any means. Should some of these front runners get into issues, I think Herbst is right there to take advantage of that. Herbst doesn't get to lead you any laps. He's probably not going to pick up any fast laps, but he does have the ability to finish inside the top 5. Sieg's going to be a little bit more of a place differential play. Not really interested in Ty Dillon. He did not lay down a lot of practice laps. I don't think this team has a sponsor. Dillon's he's been hard to trust lately. So I think he might carry some ownership based off of his name. I don't really want anything to do with that. Snyder, I think, starts right around where he potentially might finish. It's going to be hard to get to him. Brandon Brown's interesting. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. You have to keep in mind he is in the BJM 78 car today. So he's not in the 68 that he normally is in. So when you see him starting 32nd, that might bump up his ownership. But let's keep in mind he is not in his regular car. I still think he's a decent play, but I might come in a little bit under the field on Brown today just because I think his ownership is going to be high. Burton and Clements are just going to be hard to get to. They just start too close to the front of the field. Alfredo did not take a qualifying time, so he starts deep in the field, but his practice times weren't great either. So I'm a little concerned on how high Alfredo can get from a results standpoint with his finishing potential, but he does start pretty deep in the field, and he can't lose you any points. JJ Yaley had a pretty good practice and qualifying effort. The team showed really great speed, especially for the equipment that they're bringing. More of a GPP option starting 23rd, but if they can continue to run the race like they practice and qualified, a top 18, 18 to 20th place to finish is not out of line for that car. It's just a little expensive. Not going to get to Joe Graf. Stephen Parsons laid down a pretty good qualifying time. He has great equipment, but starting 14th is really going to limit his upside. We do like him. He's just going to be hard should something go wrong and he slips back and says he finishes 20th or 21st, which is very likely. It's hard for me to see Parsons finishing really any higher than 12th today. Kyle Sieg, another driver who did not take another qualifying time. We had a lot of drivers not take qualifying times today. So we have a lot of, place differential plays. It's just really what place differential plays do you want to take? His practice times weren't great. However, he should be able to gain you a few spots. Just, how many spots will he be able to gain? Weatherman always shows that he can just wheel a car. It's crazy to see his practice, his times when he's in the car versus Awuji's times when he's in the car. It's just completely, two different types of drivers there. So Weatherman, unfortunately, he starts 16th. It's going to be hard to see him advancing his position. Josh Williams is in the DGM 36 car. He was not able to make the Daytona race in this car because qualifying got rained out. So this is really the first time we're going to see Williams in this DGM 36 car. We know he was in the 92 car, I believe last year. He was running pretty well. So to see him back in this car is encouraging. I expect him to have a good race today. Vargas starts a little bit too close to the front of the field. Tommy Joe is in the BJM 5 car. That equipment just has not been good. Dawson Cram is back. He's in the 35 car. That car has been terrible. And then you got Mason Massey, same equipment as Williams. So if you can't get up to Williams at $5,800 there, I don't mind coming down and grabbing Mason Massey at $5,300. Probably my favorite punt play today, and what has, encouraged or what has led me to the video outfit today is the paint scheme, that Ryan Ellis is running. So pretty cool to see some of these teams run a throwback paint scheme, even though it's technically not throwback weekend. But in all seriousness, kind of putting the paint scheme and the fun, fandom aside, he's in a great car. I mean, he's in the same equipment that Stephen Parsons is in. We saw Parsons qualify 14th. Now, Ellis didn't have as great of a qualifying effort, but starting 31st and at $5,200, it's really hard for him, in my opinion, not to pay that off. And I really like the builds that you can get with plugging him in, especially because I think David Starr is going to carry a decent amount of ownership. But I just don't really see Starr finishing really any higher than 25th. I could see Ellis maybe getting an 18th to 20th place finish today. Bailey Curry starts a little bit too close to the front. Chris Wright is just, same story, different week. Good equipment, starts deep. All he has to do is finish the race, and we see him getting into issues. One of these weeks, he will make it through an entire race, and that's going to be the week that you want him in your line. It's just, is this going to be this weekend? He does have some experience on this track, but no experience on this track in an Xfinity car. Starts deep in the field, pretty much, min salary. I like the builds you can get, even if he does have issues starting 34th isn't going to kill your line. Just, how many times you're going to go back to the same play and get burned over and over again before you're just going to say, I'm done with it. And then Brennan Poole, not going to get to it with that equipment starting that front of the field. So yeah, that'll do it for the Xfinity picks video. If this has been helpful, leaving a like on the video is really appreciated. Subscribing to the channel is our ultimate goal. We're slowly but surely creeping up to 600, on our way to get to 1,000. I think we just hit over 800 followers on Twitter, which is at FastCarsFM. So just thank you guys, as always, so much for all the support and appreciation that you have showed us throughout the last couple of years. Makes us doing these videos that much more fun for everybody. So best of luck today. And once the Cup Series is done with practice qualifying, we will get those spreadsheets and videos recorded.